Coming up on 5 Minute News. Anti-hate speech group sued by Twitter. Fitch downgrades US credit rating due to erosion of governance. And deforestation of Amazon down over 60%. It's Thursday, August 3. I'm Anthony Davis. Elon Musk's rebranded Twitter has accused an anti-hate speech group of costing the social media app tens of millions of dollars in revenues after advertisers paused spending on the platform. A legal filing by the owner of X, the new name for Twitter as of last month, accuses the Center for Countering Digital Hate of hurting the business financially through its research of content on the social media service. The lawsuit filed in a U.S. district court claimed that 16 unnamed advertisers had stopped spending on the platform, paused advertising plans, or decided not to reactivate campaigns after reading the CCDH's work. It said at least 8 organizations and companies, including multinational corporations that have advertised on Twitter historically, had paused spending on the platform in June and July on reading the report. The filing said the cost of the advertising postponements ran into tens of millions of dollars. Advertising accounted for 90% of revenues in the last published annual results by Twitter, which covered 2021. Since then, ad revenue has plummeted, with Musk tweeting recently that it had halved. CCDH, a US-UK group, has recently published research into X's content since it was bought by Musk for $44 billion in October last year. Advertisers who have paused spending on the platform include Audi and Pfizer, the pharmaceuticals company. The lawsuit filed on Monday in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California is seeking unspecified damages for breach of contract, violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, intentional interference with contractual relations, and including breach of contract. Musk, a self-confessed free speech absolutist, has been very public about his intention to allow what is known as hate speech on the platform under the guise of free speech. Donald Trump's attempt to overturn the 2020 election and growing political polarization of the U.S. contributed to an erosion of governance that led to a top credit ratings agency to downgrade U.S. debt. Fitch cut its rating on U.S. debt on Tuesday. It was only the second time in history that a leading credit agency has downgraded U.S. debt. The first was in 2011, when Fitch rival Standard & Poor's cut the U.S. AAA rating after a nerve-wracking fight between Republicans and the Obama administration over the federal budget. Richard Francis, a senior director at Fitch Ratings, said that the agency based its decision in part on a perceived deterioration in U.S. governance, which gave it less confidence in the government's ability to address fiscal and debt issues. That deterioration, as well as increased polarization in the country's political climate, was reflected in the January 6 insurrection, which the agency highlighted in discussions with the Treasury. Fitch held meetings with the Treasury ahead of the downgrade. All the major U.S. stock markets closed in the red, with the tech-heavy Nasdaq reporting the largest fall, down over 2%, while the S&P fell 1.4% and the Dow dropped 0.98%. There's a saying that when the US sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. That is certainly true with how the US government's credit rating downgrade has troubled markets globally, said Laith Khalaf, head of investment analysis at AJ Bell. Fitch's rating on the US now stands at AA+, one notch below the top AAA grade. Fitch Analysis wrote, in Fitch's view, there has been a steady deterioration in standards of governance over the last 20 years, including on fiscal and debt matters. The repeated debt limit political standoffs and last-minute resolutions have eroded confidence in fiscal management. Deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon fell by at least 60% last month compared to the same month the year before, the Environment Minister Marina Silva said. The good news comes ahead of a regional summit that aims to prevent South America's largest biome from hitting a calamitous tipping point. The exact figure, which is based on the Deter satellite alert system, will be released in the coming days, but independent analysts described the preliminary data as incredible and said the improvement compared with the same month last year could be the best since 2005. The rapid progress highlights the importance of political change. A year ago, under the far-right then-President Jair Bolsonaro, the Amazon was suffering one of the worst cutting and burning seasons in recent history. But since a new administration, led by Lula da Silva, took power at the start of the year, the government has penalized land grabbers, mounted paramilitary operations to drive out illegal miners, demarcated more indigenous land, and created more conservation areas. Silva said the acute threat on the climate crisis, which has brought record heat to many South American countries, meant the summit had to be more than a show of unity. It needed to produce concrete and continuous results to ensure the Amazon did not reach a point where it starts to dry up and die off, which scientists have warned is drawing closer. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.